Hello, fellow Brabanters. I'm excited because we've got a very special guest today, EBRA member Lance Clouse of Highborn Stables in Arkansas. He has imported a number of European Brabants and Gypsy Vanners, and he's here to share his incredible story with you. Let's get started.
This is the Brabant Bulletin, brought to you by the European Brabant Registry of America, where people, passion, and preservation are our mission. Lance, welcome to the podcast.
Well, it's a pleasure to talk to you. You helped me so much when we first started this whole journey. You and Hernando and Rebecca, you guys really helped me out when I went down this path. I love these horses just as much as everybody does listening. I've imported 8 of them. So I have interesting stories for all that we can get into as we go down that path. But I just want to thank you for all the help you did on the front end of getting me on this journey.
Well, I'm absolutely happy to help where I can. I don't know how much I really did other than point you in directions, but I'm curious, where did you get inspired to want to start the import process in the first place?
Well, my story kind of goes back. I actually grew up in the military. My dad was in the Air Force, so I figured you'd appreciate that, being in the service and stuff yourself. We were stationed in the Philippines at different places. We ended up in North Dakota, real close to the Canadian border at Monon Air Force Base. As I grew up, there wasn't a whole lot to do in the 70s. There wasn't any internet or anything like that. So I got into weight training, and my dad taught us how to hunt and get that stuff. So with that training and weight and diet and nutrition, I decided to go into the chiropractic profession, and that's what got me down here to Arkansas. I was in North Dakota. I hadn't really been exposed to horses or anything. My dad worked on a farm in the evenings because, we had 5 kids, and back in those days, it was, we lived off the deer we harvested for the most part. My mom sold our clothes, and that was just the life that we lived. But it was so cold up there, I wanted to get away from that. So I moved to Arkansas and still was never exposed to horses. I was kind of a city guy. I continued to love the outdoors and hunt and different things like that. And I've never actually hardly bought any beef at a store. I've always harvested game in the wild. So it got me really interested to do another thing that you really enjoy, take pictures. I got a Nikon instead of my archery equipment and started taking all these pictures of animals, and started getting contacts in the industry, and I ended up breeding a whole bunch of exotic animals. I got affiliated with a guy locally, and we had a couple hundred head of whitetail that we transported from Pennsylvania and different areas like that. We did artificial insemination, and we had a herd of buffalo at the house, and different things, all these different exotic species. But the girl I started dating at the time grew up in the rodeo, and she was around horses. So I had never ridden one, didn't know anything about them. They were just out in the pasture. We had a herd of buffalo at the house too. It was kind of interesting when we introduced those. The horses did not know what to think of the buffalo, but it was really neat having them at the house. She really wanted a Gypsy Vanner really bad. We started looking online, and I found Kathy Rainey is in Kansas City, and we bought a couple from her. So we went up to check them out, and Kathy had about 40 head in the pasture. And she had some Clydesdales that were from the Budweiser team that were retired. And I've never seen a horse that big before. He was really fascinating. We went to the back gate, and they all came to see us, and there was a giant black one that came walking up. And I said, "Is there black Clydesdales?" And she said, "No, that's a Gypsy that she had imported from the UK. Well, my wife at the time just fell in love with it. She didn't see any other horse in the pasture. She had to have that thing. And she said, "Is it for sale?" And Kathy said, "Nope." So when we went home, I started working on getting that project done, and we ended up having the breeding done, and I convinced them to let us buy it. So that started the whole Gypsy thing. We ended up with about 8 or 9 Gypsies there. I fell in love with a little half layer. I didn't even know what a half layer was that was going down the highway. And I snooped around, and we eventually got her, Lulu. She pulled a wagon. I kind of got introduced to more of the draft type thing. And then as life happens, we ended up getting a divorce, and I had to sell all the horses and everything. I kept one horse, and I started going riding on the weekends. And it just hit me that, you can breed these again. So I started to deal with some of the people that I knew from before, and I got a couple more gypsies that started to breed. And in the process of going out there each weekend, I'd drive by this one location that had an old farm on it, and a house burnt down, and I eventually bought that property, and that's where I live right now. And had I not kept that horse and not went out there and rode, I'd never be where I'm sitting right here. And this would have never happened, that the story of the Belgians. Because I was sitting on Facebook, and I saw go past there that there was some horses going to slaughter. They're American Belgians, and there were 3 of them, and I'm a sucker. So I ended up getting those 3. We had 26 acres fenced in, and I first got those 3 and a miniature donkey. Then the next thing you know, another week, I had 4 more. So I had 7, rescued 7 American Belgians. And I thought they were the neatest things I've ever seen. Way bigger than the gypsies, just super calm. So most of them were Amish retired horses. And I really wanted to get into that breed because I thought they were just fascinating. So I started getting on Facebook. I got on the American Brabant page, and a guy directed me over your direction at Hernando's. And I got on Facebook and talked to Eddie, who owned one that just passed away.
Yeah, Mateo.
Yes, and I saw a video of Mateo, and I was just in awe. I said, I have to have some of that. So I got a hold of Eddie, and I purchased some semen. And I thought I can take these mares that I have, and like I used to do I used to breed Nubian ibex that was from Israel, Egypt, Pakistan. I had a contact with the Dallas Zoo, and I would get overstock from their enclosure, and I would breed pure ibex. Well, there was a market for other breeders and stuff like that. So I was kind of, in that market already, and thought, well, maybe I could do mixed breeds and go halves and then 3/4 and 7/8 and just breed the pure into them. Because as I started looking around to try to find a breeder for these, anybody in the country, there was nobody. All the websites were closed. They were old. I did run across Rebecca, and I asked her, can I just get a mare or something? And she said she had, several page waiting list. I thought, wow. That's what I thought. I wouldn't be able to get one. So that's when I got a hold of Eddie and was just going to do the insemination. So I went to my local vet, and I brought my Belgian girls up there. She checked them out, and she kind of didn't really want to do the breeding, but she was my only source. So I then got back with Eddie, and I said, what does it cost just to get one of these? And we started talking, and he put a little batch together. And then I talked to Ann Mize, N-E-Y-S. Without her, I would have nothing. She does the stud book in Belgium, and she knows every single horse that there is over there that's been over there. And so I literally have thousands of messages with her. She helped me with everything that I did, all the process. She's an amazing woman, very, very thoughtful. She just wants to get a good representation of this breed over here. And without her, I couldn't have got through this process. But I eventually imported 4 the first time. It's interesting. I've imported 8, and I've never actually physically spoke to a person. The Bible says, go by faith, not by sight. I was going by faith. But that was really an interesting story too, with faith on the first 4. I wasn't sure if I wanted to spend that kind of money. I had always wanted a power wagon, a Dodge power wagon, like a 50s model. And before COVID hit, I bought one. And they had these auctions going in Vegas that they were going for like $150,000 to $200,000. And I got one for a fraction of that. I thought, I know what I could do. I can run that through the auction and make $100,000, and I can invest. Well, COVID hit, and they shut down all the auctions. So I had that truck sitting in my garage for almost 10 years. And I thought, should I invest this truck into the horses? we took it to an auction in Iowa, and I said the truck has got to go for a certain amount. Otherwise, I'm not going to take that investment, and I wanted to take the money in that and put it in the horses. Well, it come to turn out that it ended up being within $100 of what it cost to import before. So that was my confirmation that this is what I'm supposed to do.
Oh my gosh!
The truck sold in the auction. Well, it sold for basically 30. I had to get 37,000 in fee change to cover the flight costs to get the horses over. And my buddy was at the auction, and he's on the phone with me. He says it's stalling at about 38. I said, nope. Well, wait, we got to go to 41 to get the buyers, the commission fees out. And some guy online bought it, and it ended up being the exact price I paid for it, which is the exact price to ship them over. So it was confirmation that I think I did the right thing.
So you gave up horsepower under the hood for horsepower from overseas. Sounds like a fair trade.
Yeah. It was fun. Didn't I try to do I've got little hobbies with stuff, and I always wanted one of those trucks, but I was too afraid to drive it because it only had hardly any miles on it. I was afraid that it'd get dented or hurt or something like that. But I did get a look at it for a year or two in my garage during COVID and moving boxes around it. But it ended up being pretty neat. So I bought this property, and we were going to start to build, and COVID hit, and the lumber just went skyrocketed. So the lumber package went up $60,000 in like a month. So we just kind of held off, and I had this 26 acres off, and I had it. So I just threw the Belgians in there, and they were just roaming around and eating grass. And I was out there just enjoying them. We'd come out twice a day. And it really convinced me this is really what I do. So I started to rehome them, and we rehomed most all of them. We had to put one down here, but we have one left, and he's kind of our mascot. He's a big 18-hand sweetheart named Mufasa. And when this group, the first four came, they were all, essentially weanlings, yearlings, and going through all that process with them. It was really neat seeing this big giant semi pull up. It looked like the lifestyles of Richie saying this, the lights were all lit up here. And I thought, this is really cool. I feel pretty special. They came all the way from Belgium. It was just neat to do that. So that just got me hooked, and I wanted more. Then the initial batch, the first four, I just wanted any of them. So Eddie hooked me up with 3, but they were all bays. There was a stallion, Bruno, and then there was 2 other girls, Helena, which actually went to our friend. And she ended up winning the whole show with Helena.
Right. So you're talking about Rebecca Courtney of All the King's Horses in Pennsylvania. For our listeners who don't know who Rebecca is, she is another breeder. She's also a founding member of the European Brabant Registry of America. So just wanted to identify who she was and who we're talking about.
Rebecca was very helpful too. I mean, she's the initial one that I called from the start because she has All the King's Horses, and she has Gypsies, and she has the imports also. And so I thought she'd be the person that would be doing what I'm doing. So, and she was very nice, very sweet. She was very helpful. She didn't have any to get at the time, so I just ended up importing. And I've called and asked her questions in the past. She's super helpful. You find that in this horse world. There's so many people that are just good, down-to-earth people that just want to help. And she was one of them. So she's the first person I called when I wanted to try to start breeding maybe more blue roans. Instead of bays, I had too many brown horses. So she took Helena, and she's done great. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with her first baby. So the first batch was Bruno, and then Lila, and then Helena, and then Anne found me a blue roan named Liz. And that was the first batch. Now, there's the second one. About a year later, I wanted a few more. So Anne found me another blue roan. And then Louise, which is kind of a chestnut colored looking one. I think you have one like that down there that has more yellowish tone to it. I've seen it in your pictures. You know what I'm talking about?
You might be talking about my Agnes. She's a lighter colored bay. She would be considered a gold bay.
Yeah. Real neat color. I thought she was really, really neat. Sweet little old couple raised her. In fact, you know what? I think the wife is the one that judged our competition.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about Monique Bulin?
I think her and her husband are the ones that I bought Louise from.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
remember right. Like, yeah, I could be wrong, but so she'll just be 2, and Lisa, Louise came together. I think they were close. They weren't at the same stable, but they came together. Then I wanted a blue roan stallion, so then I found Kobe, and he's the last one I imported with 3 gypsies from Great Britain. He's the last one. He'll be 2 in June. He's just a big, sweet boy. And honestly, since I'm listening to the podcast that you guys have done, which I encourage everybody listening to listen to the history of these, it was really kind of eye-opening to see how few number that these horses are. So after listening to that podcast a week or 2 ago of the 2nd edition, I made it an executive decision. Bruno he'll be 4 this year. He's the base stallion of the first batch that I brought over. He is going to Georgia to a stable that has over 150 head of horses, and they have Belgians, and they're going to breed him down there. And I thought we need to keep this bloodline be able to be spread, because he's only bred 1 horse since he's been here. So I am going down 1 number, but I think it's going to be for a good cause for the breed. He's going to be able to.
I'm personally thankful that you're making decisions like that based on what's best for the breed too, Lance. So I think we have to, as much as we get attached to them, always keep in mind that if these horses are going to exist in the future, that sometimes it's making those tough decisions to send horses onto a different pasture where they're going to make a difference. So that's pretty tremendous. Are they American Belgians that this herd is in Georgia?
Yes, she has American Belgians, and they also want to breed quarter horses. She just has a lot of contacts. They breed Tennessee Walkers. They have 150 head of those. So she has a pretty sizable operation. So I thought it was a good fit that she can start to get that bloodline. She may end up getting another one up here for me or someone else. We just see. I think she's going to fall in love with him when he goes down there. He's just a big sweetheart. What you'll see with these Belgians, the stallions that I have, they're like geldings. In fact, I call Bruno Eeyore, from Winnie the Pooh. He's just so chill. My gypsy stallion just runs around and acts like he's crazy. And Bruno would be across the driveway from Aries, the gypsy stallion, who has mares with him that he's breeding, and he would just stand there at the fence and just watch. He could have tore down. They're just so calm and so relaxed. That Kobe is the stallion I'm going to keep. You can lead him around with your pinky. He's just so gentle. So this breed is just amazing. I can't say enough about it. I did miss one though, because I did import 1 more. It was really because of Earl. I just love the color of Earl. I wanted one just like it. And, over there, they don't do a lot of DNA calculations with colors and stuff like that. So you kind of go by what the breeder thinks that will happen in the past with that combination. So I thought I was going to get Earl's color, which is, I guess, like a silvered apple, or they call it apple shimmer over there. But it turned out she was just black horse. And after getting a tester and everything. So that's Martha. She's the last one that I imported over. So she's taken up the rear. She'll be 2 this year also. So that's the last of the imports that I have. But if people have questions about importing, since I've imported probably more than most anybody has, there may be more, but it wasn't a bad process. Again, I did speak to the equine transport people over there in Belgium, and it's really neat because you call and they'll be speaking in Dutch, and then all of a sudden they speak fluent English too. And then I actually connected with the guy stateside. I can give people his contact too, and he coordinated with them, and everything just went perfectly right to my door. So the process is not difficult. You take a lot of trust because you're sending that over, but it's a good process. They send lots of horses over every single day. But that's kind of my story as far as those. I'm going to try to breed with Kobe this year and get some babies on the ground and just see where it takes us.
Oh, that's awesome. Talk to me a little bit about how you went about choosing the transporter you went with. Was it a recommendation from the initial breeder, Eddie Van Lagenhoven?
No, initially with Eddie, I pretty much just discussed with him the 3 horses that I was choosing. And that's when I met Ann.
Right.
And Ann would communicate with everybody. She would call the equine, I think it's EHS over there.
Yeah.
And she would call them. She would talk to breeders. If I needed hair samples, she would actually go get the hair samples, because sometimes getting hair samples, you're not sure if it's getting it from the horse that you're actually buying. You've got to have a lot of trust in this, because you've got a PSSM1 marker that people have issues with over here that they don't even test over there. It's not even on their radar over there. They've been breeding these horses for centuries, and they don't even know what it is. Same with the ones over in the gypsies from England. They don't ever test for any of that either. But it is kind of hard to find one that doesn't have a marker. I'm not really concerned about it.
Just to interject here, thank you for bringing that up. I want to interject before we move on, because some people may be asking,
Sure.
What is PSSM1? Why should it be on my radar? For anybody that's listening, if you're a member, you can log into the EBRA members portal and find this wonderful clinic hosted by Dr. Valentine, who goes into PSSM1. Actually, she's one of the pathologists that narrowed down this particular muscle-related, what they call a disease, but I would argue, and she does as well, I'm just basically parroting Dr. Valentine when I say draft horses have had PSSM1 throughout centuries. It's literally been something they've carried with them before it was even on our radar. And people who worked with draft horses just knew that they needed a special diet, they needed to work, and they called it the Monday morning disease. It's been around for a long time. Now, where it really gets people ruffled is when it comes to light horses, because it impacts light horses differently. So for all you draft horse owners, I'm not saying you shouldn't be aware of it, because you should be feeding your draft horses for the diet that's best for our heavy babies. But it's not as big of a concern in terms of you're working with your horses and having extracurricular activities with them. Okay, sorry, Lance. Carry on.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that to go to that, listen to that clinic. I think some of this has come from the gypsy world. I mean, the gypsy horses have been pretty hot for the last decade or two, and it was kind of blown out of proportion a little bit in that realm too, in the gypsy side. So people that have kind of drifted this direction are concerned about that. And as far as resale, I've never really had any experience with any horses ever having it, but I haven't been around this, but maybe 8 to 10 years. So I do, because I did test them all. All the ones that I looked at, you have to dig really, really deep to find one that does not have just one marker. Some of them had 2 markers, and I did pass on those just because there's a chance that you could get it, and maybe people wouldn't want to have that horse. But I still think, again, it's how active the horse is, what you feed it. It has to do with carbohydrate metabolism. They go into that in the discussion, and you can get more information on it as far as that goes. That was the only thing that I would do. I would send it, and would get the hair samples, and we'd send it to animal genetics, and they would test for that. And then I would decide if that was the horse I wanted to get. There's a few I turned down because they carried 2 markers. But if it was only one, since all the ones I tested, and I tested a lot more than I imported, all carried 1 marker. So I thought, this is just the way it's going to be. So just go with maybe one that doesn't have 2 markers. I think there's been people that have found one that didn't have. But if you want a specific color, say it's a blue, that's a very low percentage of the horses that are going to be even picked from. when you get down to pick, if you wanted a bay horse, a black one, there's more numbers. But when you get down to such a small breed that you're picking from, now you got a smaller group that, that you can see if he's even going to not have a marker. So I just went ahead and went with it.
Well, yeah, when you're making decisions like that, Lance, I think you did your due diligence in testing for PSSM1. I think that makes sense. And then, like you said, there are limited numbers. So PSSM1 is very prevalent in all draft breeds. Let me reiterate that, all draft breeds. And particularly the European Brabants, given their rarity and considering that a lot of them share the same family trees. So they're going to be at least a one marker carrier typically. I know that Rebecca recently imported her little stud colt and he's a double negative. Hernando Plata stallion is a double negative. So we do have stallions here who are completely clean that you can cover, say, a horse that's a 2 marker carrier for an offspring with 1 marker. But I want to reiterate too, Lance, just so we're not like fear mongering anybody out there, that draft horses with PSSM are manageable on diets and are often asymptomatic. That means they'll go their whole entire life not showing any symptoms. So don't be fearful if you have a draft horse and you're like, oh my gosh, does my horse carry PSSM1? It's not the end of the world. Go online, watch that clinic, and I think you'll feel better about it.
And also, too, talk to people that have them. Like you had them for a while. I've had them. Talk to people that are on the page and just start asking questions. Everybody would be more than willing to want to help you just because we're excited just to have these. It's the word just needs to get out about these horses. They're so amazing. And I think if more people were kind of on the ground floor of this, I was kind of thinking when I started this, versus the gypsies, that the gypsies come around in the early 90s, mid 90s, that we might be on the ground floor of this. Now, a lot of people want them to use them for what they're for. But a lot of at least in the gypsy world and also here too, now Rebecca, they use their horses to work, but a lot of them don't. They're just, they're out there, then they ride them a little bit. They may pull things on occasion, but they're not like athletes. They're not like an Amish horse that's going to work all day, And then something like that you might see, if they're worked a lot, but most of these horses aren't going to be in reality. You just enjoy them, enjoy riding them, taking care of them, just seeing how beautiful they are. I tell you, there's nothing that takes your breath away more. When you go to feed and you've got 8 of them running towards you over the hill on the pasture, you can hear that stampede. And I go, there's only one other place in the planet that this will happen. It'd be years ago, usually we're in Netherlands, just to see this horde coming at me. Now it's only 8, but at the time, but still it was pretty neat. I got excited every time I'd feed to hear them come running until I had to start separating them. Boys were getting older, but it's really neat, and they just grow right in front of your eyes. It's really neat too. In the winter, the coats get so thick, and you go out there and you hug on them, and it's just you want to lay down and snuggle up and take a nap. Because they're just, the cold does not bother them at all. But they're really an amazing breed. I hope people that listen to this think about it. Ask me questions. Look around. It's really amazing if you go down this path. I'm glad that I got turned down this direction. I probably never would have had I not rescued those American Belgians. And it's really fascinating when you listen to the history, how they're basically the father of all the big draft breeds.
Isn't that correct? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yes, I know. They imported them from in the Soviet Union, different ones like that, and they started their own divisions off our horses that we love so much. But I'm going to keep doing it as long as I'm healthy enough to do it. I turn 58 tomorrow, so.
Yeah, I thought you had a birthday on the horizon. Happy birthday!
Yeah, I know these horses like potato chips. I keep getting more and more, and that's what people saying. I have to go to Horses Anonymous or something like that. But
well, you mentioned that Rebecca had a wait list for her horses. What about you? Are people calling you, asking you if you have any available?
I haven't actually bred yet. I wanted to try to breed with Kobe last year, but he was so young, he didn't understand anything. He just hung out with the girls. So none of them took. We ultrasounded, and I was just going to wait and try this year. And now since Bruno's going to be leaving, he'll be the chief dog here. He doesn't turn 3 until June. So he should be good this year. Last year, he just he didn't really get the concept.
All right. Is he going to be spun up for collecting? Or are you going to ship semen?
Well, I'll have to find someone. I think he would be one that could be trained real easily. I have an excellent trainer that I take all my horses to in Missouri. I could not speak highly enough of him. I may take him up there if there's an interest and start to train him to collect. He's just so gentle. I've never had. I've had probably 40 gypsies or more, 40 to 50 through all this time. He's the calmest of all of them I've ever had, and he's a boy. It's pretty amazing. So I'd like to be able to use him to breed to get that calm gentleness in that bloodline, whoever he breeds with. So if there's a need, I haven't really advertised much. I have a regular full-time job, so this is kind of something I do in the evenings and the weekends, but I'm always open to anybody that's interested to call. I'll talk horses forever. And if people just have questions, they can reach me through my page. Or
what is the name of your Facebook page, or do you have a website? How can people find you?
Highborn Stables is the page. I don't put a lot of pictures on there. I'm not a big Facebook person. I will more, actually. I'm pretty excited because Santa bought me a drone for Christmas. And it's a pretty fancy one. So I'm going to get out there and do a lot more video of them moving with the drone and put more videos and pictures and stuff like that up. And I'm probably going to make a site. Have a friend that does that. I don't really have a website, so to speak. It's basically just been through Facebook. And, I have a regular full-time job. It's pretty busy. But I'm going to do this because I'd like to play with my drone. But I'd like to also get some good video and pictures out so people can see, and then market a little bit more. But I think they'll just sell themselves once people start to really dig in and get interested. There's just so few that, I really feel just happy and a bunch of gratitude that I even have the ones I have. It's because you just walk out there and they're just right outside. And if anybody in our area, I'm in Arkansas, but I'm on the border of Oklahoma and Arkansas, basically smack dab between Little Rock and Oklahoma City. Anybody's more than welcome to come visit and see them if they want to. I'd be glad to show them off. But I think once you see them, then you're sold. It's kind of like going to look at puppies. If you don't come over with a puppy, there's something wrong with you. That's kind of how it is with these guys.
Well, listeners, if you can't find Highborn Stables on Facebook, you can always visit EuropeanBrabant.com and go under the page that says Breeders in America, and you will find Highborn Stables listed. And we've got the Facebook linked out on that, so you can always find him there.
I'd be glad to help anybody. You can look me up on Facebook too. It's Lance Clouse, LanceClouse. I have a bald eagle on my profile. You can message me and you can chit chat, or if you've got questions, I'll be glad to help you. When I do try to market these, I'm really wanting to just spread the breed. I'm not, I make a pretty good living doing what I'm doing. I'm not trying to make a ton of money. I'd like to just get people to enjoy what we're enjoying. So I'm going to try to price them fair, market, and it is expensive to ship them over. It's a risk. Then you typically have to ship them when they're young, because it's too expensive to ship them when they're above 7 years in some days, because they quarantine for a month. They quarantine for 3 days when they're young. But then another thing I found too, they do their horses different over there. They've been doing something for centuries over their way of doing things for a long time. We may do them different over here. Like when our babies are born, we are touching them and hands on them right away. It's just to desensitize them and get them used to human touch. They do it different over there. they send them out in the pasture with the moms. And when they wean them, then they actually physically handle them. And they're pretty big at that time, so they could hurt you. So the one of the ones I had not been handled at all. And she's great now. We did have to send her to the trainer, but it's a little bit risky as far as that goes because they just do things different. But luckily, overall, they're all pretty calm. The breed is, so, I haven't had one that's acted stupid, so to speak, if you've been around Arabians or quail horses, you probably understand what I'm talking about. They're all pretty level-headed, but they do different over there. So when our babies hit the ground, there's going to be hands all over them to get them to their just very well. But that's another thing different about when you ship them over. You're not sure what you're going to get as far as that goes. It's cheaper to, like I said, to ship a younger one. But then to get them, if you want to breed, you can breed them for a few years. So then you've got to house family, feed them, and take care of them during that time. I can sidestep that process and try to have a reasonable price to be able to ship them. I ship them over in a crate, which you basically get a crate of 4. If they're small enough, which the weanlings would be, or potentially you can fit 4 in there, and it's cheaper to ship. Otherwise, you're just picking a spot in there. It's more expensive.
Here's a quick word from IRT. With offices in countries around the globe, IRT's international coverage means that their professional and experienced staff can better facilitate horse shipment around the world. If you're considering importing or exporting a horse, be sure to visit IRT.com and let them know the European Brabant Registry of America sent you. And now, back to the podcast.
To ship one, it went up with COVID. The prices did, but you're gonna drop anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000 potentially just shipping.
Yeah, I know.
In the country.
Yeah, in 2019, I think I paid about $13,850.53. I'm looking at my bill right now because you were talking about importing. And I'm like, I wonder what my bill was. It's been so many years, but that was, 5 years ago. And a lot's happened. So it's probably a lot higher than that now. Not a lot, but
it was more expensive as you ship an individual one. I did spend. That's why I sold my truck, and that's why I was going to get 4. Because it was enough to get the 4 because it ended up being cheaper when you had a crate.
Yeah.
You
might as well you might as well fill a box, right, Lance? You might as well just put 4 in it.
Yeah.
And for anybody who's listening, what Lance is talking about is there's a box that goes on the airplane. And what he's saying is you can fit 2 full-grown horses in it, or you can fit 4 weanlings. And like he said, you want to actually ship them if they're a year or younger because they have to do a CEM quarantine. But, if you're going to pay the expense, which a box air stall is about $7,500 to $8,500 for the air freight from Belgium. And if you're going to do that, you might as well either find other people who want to import horses and weanlings at the same time, like go in on it with somebody. That I ended up doing that when I brought my stud colt over. There were other people that wanted to import 3 fillies. So we all shared a box. So if you can do that. Or you can sell a pickup truck and go and buy 3 fillies or 4 fillies or whatever you want. But don't forget that you're going to have to pay for your horses as well. What we're talking about is the shipping fee and the permits and the quarantine. That's one price, okay? And then the price it takes to buy the animals themselves, and then the price it takes to ship them via ground from quarantine to your location. How did that work out for you, Lance?
Well, the euro dollar is stronger than ours. So you can kind of figure, if you're going to pay 2,500 euros, it's going to be probably $3,200 or $3,300. Now, I paid anywhere from right around that $3,000 to $3,500 range, just give or take, for each horse. Now, that's not very expensive over there, but then you throw in the cost like you had to get one over. Now you're looking at $15,000 to $18,000 or more. When I shipped the 4, it also helped when they landed in New York that there was 4 coming with the transport, which they deducted $1,000 off of each, but I think it was probably $4,000 just to get them from New York to my house. And you got, now, I think I got it down to around $13,000 or $12,000 just by shipping more of them together. I did have, when I brought Martha, the last one over, and I bought ones from the UK, one of them, I had some bad luck there because the plane didn't work and they were supposed to fly on a Wednesday. They had to fix the plane. So then when they shipped, we're going to ship out Friday, one of my girls from England popped a fever, but she could not fly. So that 1 degree temp, whatever it was, ended up costing me another $7,000 because she had to take the flight, and they don't give you a refund. That plane takes off and you buy the next stall. And they gave me a break on that. It was going to be $9,000. I think it was $7,000 that I had to pay.
So that's a lot.
To fly on the next flight. And then what they do is after they quarantine for 3 days, then they ship them from the New York City airport to a stables that's out of the city limits. And that's not an easy thing to the shipper, they pay a couple $100 in tolls and I would not go pick one up. I would not drive through New York City in that traffic. I'd rather pay someone that does this all the time, that has a semi that does it. So it's just easier to let the shipper bring them to your place. They have a semi, or they have 2 drivers. Most of the time it took a day and a half, 2 days tops, because they go from New York and they make a couple stops. I think I picked them up at like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. It's just whenever they got here, then you unloaded them. But it was easier, and I could work with the shipper to try the guy on the state side that I could get his contact to. Someone's interested too. That kind of worked a little bit. He's kind of a broker. The price of shipping once you hit the U.S. So I would just I can't remember which one I used, but I have it marked down somewhere. But they're a legit operation. But that's just something too you got to look into. So if you go trying to buy one and you see that, the price, just remember now, if you need to do this yourself, you find one over there and you do the DNA testing and then you ship it over and then it quarantines for 3 days and then you got to get it to your house. You're going to spend somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000. So if you can find one here that's cheaper than that, especially since you can actually see them there. And it's kind of unknown when you're over there. You don't really know what you're getting. They don't speak your language. At least like Rebecca or someone like me or some of the other small breeders, you could actually maybe go see them, see video, talk to them. If they've had the stallions, the mirrors right there, you can see if there's any quirks with their, habits or attitudes or things like that can pass on to their offspring. It's so much easier. So that's why I want to continue to do it, even if it's, the gypsies do well for me, so they're kind of paying for these guys, and I just want to be able to continue to have the breed.
No, and I definitely appreciate that. And for anybody who's listening who has always wanted a Brabant and is still searching, importing is, it's an investment. So what we're trying really hard at the European Brabant Registry of America to do is to open up different avenues to increase the population, the genetics, and make sure the health is good, and to ensure preservation of the breed. And part of that is the breed up program. So, Lance talked about sending his imported stud down to Georgia to cover American Belgian mares. Well, those offspring will qualify for the Brabant stock stud book. And when those offspring are old enough to breed, they can be bred back to a purebred. And those will be in the Brabant stock, and so on until they reach the purebred threshold of 15/16. And, they can go in for the evaluation for breed standards and qualify to become in the elite stud book of the European Brabant stud book. So all of us have a chance to make a difference. Even if it's one little small drop in the pond, it all contributes in so many ways. And, if you can't afford to import, you can get a Brabant stock. I started with a Brabant stock mare myself. She's my favorite, still is. She's 75%, and I always breed her back to purebred, and her offspring are incredible. And they are going to be the foundation again for future purebred horses. I've used imported semen. That's another option. And that broadens your ability to choose a broader pedigree too. So if you've chosen from a certain bloodline, using Mateo, who is a prolific breeder, he recently passed away, God bless him. He's a prolific breeder, a fantastic stud, but he's got offspring everywhere, especially in Canada and the US. I have one of them. My stallion is out of Mateo via Jim. Anyway, but everything that I have offspring-wise can be bred back to imported frozen semen from other pedigrees. What were you going to say, Lance?
Well, as far as the Mateo thing, when I started working with Anne, since she basically is the secretary for the stud book and knows pretty much every bloodline over there, we specifically tried to find the mares and the stallions that did not have Mateo, just for that purpose, because there is so much Mateo bloodline here. Not that I have anything against them. We just wanted to give different options, for people to have, just from a marketing standpoint. I'm not saying I wouldn't get one from him. I'd love to breed with your stallion, and hopefully we'll both do that once the girls get old enough. But the other thing that Ann did that we painstakingly did is all the ones we imported. She knows a lot about the previous stallions and the pedigrees that had leg issues. Because over there, they have issues with their feet and their lower legs, so she'd say, oh, no, let's stay away from this one, because I would have not known that. I would have looked at the pictures and went. So we did go to detail to try to pick ones that didn't have any history of any leg issues in the pedigree or anything. So that is what the stock that I chose. Try to find non-Mateo and ones that didn't have history of leg issues in the pedigree.
So what Lance, what you're talking about is when you say leg issues, is chronic progressive lymphedema. And it's a disease that's been around for a while. It's prevalent in a lot of feathered draft breeds and even non-feathered like Friesians. And it's something that's still being studied and not quite understood, though most recently there have been some breakthrough studies in Belgium by Dr. Marieke Brees. And you can find her clinic if you haven't watched it. If you're an EBRA member listening, go onto the members portal. Her clinic is there and it's quite illuminating. She talks about preventive measures, how to, talking about Belgium and Netherlands practice for breeding studs, legs, and mare choices. Anyway, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole because that's not what we're here to talk about right this moment. But in case you were like, what is he talking about, legs? What does that mean? Well, we can explain it all on the website. Feel free to jump on there and read up on it.
Yeah, there's been some real neat information too on the mites and the legs and stuff like that people, that there's some new information on that could be a precursor to it. So that I would encourage those, if you're gypsy or any draft, just to listen to that podcast, the information. There's some easier treatments that you can do. I think the other thing too is you got to watch. It's just, I was kind of guilty of it at first because these horses are like our babies, and we think like, you feed fish because they look hungry. You can feed a fish and kill them, which I've done before because they're always hungry. You can do that with your horses, not kill them, but you can overfeed them. And then if they can get heavier in the legs. So I would send pictures to Ann all the time and say, she'd say, oh, you need to cut back on the feed. It's just in the long run, it's healthier for their legs. Not that that they're prone to them, but it's another thing too, because you think they're so big that they can eat. They need to eat a lot. They eat less than what you think. When you go to actually to feed them.
I absolutely could not agree more, Lance. My drafts eat less than, all of my drafts combined eat less than my thoroughbred does in one sitting. My drafts are on balancer and hay. My thoroughbred gets, like 5 pounds twice a day of grain. It's crazy. And my drafts do not get grain at all. They just get minerals and vitamins, supplements.
I found that with the American Belgians that I rescued, because I didn't have a history on them. I don't think some of them had ever ate grain before. Because if you, I think it just fed them grass and hay, and they're all, some of them obviously were going to slaughter because they had a health issue or something, or they're too old. But for the most part, they're pretty healthy. But some of them, they didn't really know how to eat it. It's like they looked at it like they never ate it before. So Some of those breeds, I don't think they even feed them
Yeah,
much,
maybe.
and they all look pretty healthy.
Yeah.
I had a halflinger that I talked about before. I barely fed her at all because she would get too heavy, but she looked thick and stout as can be just off what she browsed out in the field and everything. So if you get one, I would talk to some of the people on the site and ask questions. Hey, what do you feed? How much protein is in that? There's a DeVast that let someone that's already done this for a while. I would pick their brain. There's super smart people on here that can lead you in the right direction. I'm always learning, always. I don't ever think I know more than I need to. I'm always trying to pick people's brain about what they're doing feed-wise and different things like that to try to keep them as healthy as they can be.
Same. I am always asking questions. I'm always reading. I'm trying to find new things. And I think what's really fun is the EBRA newsletter, because we're, always finding out new things, not just within the breed, but the draft horse community, and being able to share that with everybody. And of course, through the podcast, getting to know folks like you who come on and share their experiences. So thank you for doing that today, Lance. Really appreciate that.
Yeah. And I want to thank you guys for putting all this information together. Because someone has to do all this, find the articles, put it all in there, and it's so professional. It's so great. There's all kinds of merchandise on there. I would look into it. They're always adding things. The amount of work that goes behind that, I can't even fathom. So you guys need a definite, stand up and applause for everything that you guys do. There's not a whole lot of people doing the work, and I want to make sure that people know. And just get on the page and get on the website, surf around. It's very professionally done. Everything looks incredible. So it's a legit deal. It's not, and I hope it just grows and grows and grows and grows. I'm looking forward just to seeing what it does. And I really want to thank you for all that you've done for this breed. We wouldn't really be where we're at if it wasn't for you and Rebecca and some, other people that are really pushing this, and you in particular.
Well, thanks. Lance.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And, it takes all the members. I don't operate this in a vacuum, and all the volunteers that are working behind the scenes. And Rebecca, of course, is incredibly generous with her time and knowledge. And we will all together, that includes you, Lance, and all of our extended members and all the Brabant enthusiasts who don't own one yet, but love them and want to support them. It's going to take an entire village to keep this breed going and see the registry through the future. So again, thank you, Lance, for joining us. And if you want to find Lance Clouse, don't forget to look for that bald eagle on Facebook. Look up Lance Clouse. You can also find Highborn Stables. You can type that into the search engine or visit EuropeanBrabant.com and look for the Breeders in America page.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
You too, Lance. I appreciate it.
Okay. Take care now. See you later.
All right, Brabanters, that concludes our podcast for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Brabant Bulletin wherever you listen to your podcasts. And until next time, don't forget, to ride a Brabant is to fly without wings.